Hello, I'm Glenn Sage, and what we're doing with today's video entitled The Big One is reviewing some aspects of the upcoming simulated emergency test, which will be taking place on January the 16th. The reason that you received a link on this is that you are registered for the event. The simulation is of a earthquake that is taking place in one of the active seismic zones that fall within the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is actually the central one. There's three of these. One of these is located in far southwest Virginia, down around Lee County and Wise County, in that area. The other one that we will not be dealing with today is located in eastern and northern Virginia. But this seismic zone is located with the center of it pretty much in Giles County, Virginia, which is near the city of Blacksburg, or it's actually the town of Blacksburg now, the city of Radford, and very close to Christiansburg. So the magnitude of this simulation is an earthquake of 7.7 on the Richter scale, which is a very powerful earthquake for one that would occur in the east. So we will be simulating a need for communication due to conditions created by this earthquake. Is a loss of phone service within about a 50-mile radius. Also a loss of internet service, so there would be no emails or other communications by email within the seismic zone and within the area that has been directly affected by this simulated earthquake. And some radio communication would also be affected. The mountain that this takes place beneath is the home of several amateur radio repeaters, so they naturally would be disrupted for various reasons in this earthquake. Commercial power would be lost also in the impact area, and this would pretty much cover a 50-mile radius of the center of the quake, which would also extend into Roanoke. It would extend south to the North Carolina border. It would extend north and west into the state of West Virginia. Also, within this area is a simulated, very large reservoir that is backed up by a dam that we're going to be referring to as Dam X-Ray. And the reservoir backed up behind this dam is about 4,400 acres of water at the surface. And in addition to this, the water depth in the center of the river channel is about 105 feet deep. And of course, if the seismic activity caused a upheaval of the Earth's plates down about 25 miles deep, it could certainly affect this concrete dam structure. Normally, when resources are required for an event such as this or any major disaster for an impacted area, and of course there would be lots of needs, but the first thing that would happen would be those within that area would begin to enlist material aid and personal aid from nearby jurisdictions. And once this is exhausted, if these things are not available from close-in jurisdictions, then communication would need to extend out to VDEM, that's the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, which is located in Richmond and is well beyond the heavily impacted area. And this would be the direction that you would look for support. But in the exercise, things are going to be a little different because there will be direct appeals made across the state, throughout the state, for assistance. And many of these items would in normal circumstances, be channeled through VDM. The needed jurisdiction would contact VDM, and VDM in turn would gather the resources required and would ship to the needed area. But we're going to be going both ways. We're going to be going directly to VDM with both situation reports from your area and also where needs are requested. And when you request a need from VDM with an ICS 213 general message form, within the Virginia forms of WinLink 2000, you will find a category for Virginia forms, and in that is this request form to VDM. And of course, in the body of this message form is a listing of pieces of information that are needed, and you'll see those when you pull the form up if you are sending that to VDM, which you'll be sending to November 4 Victor Echo Mike Virginia Emergency Management. All of this is listed on the website, and you should have the address for the website for the exercise, and all of the participants, their email addresses, and also their it will be their WinLink addresses. So you would have access to those where you would begin to send your request to or an offer of help. So this exercise is going to begin at 0800 hours on January the 16th. And the way that you will know that the exercise is beginning is by the clock at 0800. Just assume the exercise is now underway, and so you'll begin to listen on HF to 3.947 lower sideband, 3.947 lower sideband. This is the frequency that's normally used by most Virginia nets and emergency nets. So those of you that are active in traffic handling or anything like that would know where to go for this. Once propagation is lost due to the increase of time, we would then shift to 7240, 7.240, and this is also lower sideband, and you would listen for our net control at this point. Our net control on HF for this exercise is Kilo India 4 Mike Papa Yankee, and this is Kobe, York, and Kobe is located very close to Lynchburg, Virginia, which is pretty much central for the state. So listen for Kobe, York, both on 75 meters, and then when you no longer can hear stations on 75, in all probability he has shifted to the 40-meter band. In addition to this, if 40 meters is not active on the net frequency, then look on 60 meters. We have intentionally left out 60 meters this year because of some complaints of people who do not have antennas cut or do not have a tuner that's capable of tuning 60 meters in. But that should be a priority for you between sets, is to create an antenna system, whether it's by tuning a general purpose antenna or whether it's cutting an antenna 460 meters so that you can become active. That was the reason that we received the 60-meter band, was because of having a band that has characteristics somewhat of 40 meters and also of 80 meters, but in between the two. So those are the HF frequencies that will be active. We also want to encourage you as much as possible, especially for your long haul or detailed traffic, to use WinLink as your system of communication. Now the HF station will accept your messaging by HF, but the possibility is pretty strong that you could lose propagation, and it takes a lot longer to send a message by voice than it does by WinLink. So use WinLink especially for that. Use your VHF nets, and you should establish a VHF local net for your particular area, so that you might gather these resources together and simulate caravanning these down to the impacted area. Now this is just a 6-hour exercise, but the needs for a simulation of this type would go on for days, and so you would not be departing from Eastern Virginia or anywhere in Virginia to come to the impact area because of the brevity of the exercise. So just simulate that you are finding these resources, and use your local net for calling around and seeing who has the particular items that might be needed to respond to a disaster of this type. Also, we want to encourage everybody, or at least every group, to get in your ICS 605 form. This allows others in the exercise to know what frequencies you're monitoring, where you're going to be, and it also allows your locals to know where to find a net that might be established for passing local traffic, both within the simulated emergency zone or outside of it. So be sure to get those in. Also, take photos. Make photos of your group or your station, or whatever is happening with you during this exercise, and send those to me to post on the website for this particular exercise, so that people can see who has been involved and what their stations may have looked like. My email address, or one of them, is November 4 Delta November at ARRL.net. It's my call, November 4 Delta November at ARRL.net. So send those in JPEG format, and also, if you can, you might reduce the size. I'll be reducing the size once I receive them anyway, to post on the internet. Also, we would encourage you, even though you have WinLink capabilities of logging automatically, your WinLink messages will be logged for you. And I would encourage you, first of all, to clean off your incoming messages that you've received, and clean off all old messages, so that you can do an accurate count of what you actually have sent and received during the exercise itself. Now, if you're from some kind of group that you're collecting information for sending to the parent organization, such as Aries, you can certainly take credit for the activities that took place during this exercise, and save those for after October of 2021, because this exercise took place in 2021, and this will allow you to glean a lot of points for the state of Virginia under whatever system you might be working under. So use a log, and one of the logs, if you use a manual log, would be a form ICS 309. And also use your other ICS forms for documentation of your activities to include as part of your task book. Some of you may be working on a task book for EmComm, auxiliary communication, and a different task book is an ARIES task book. And so these two different books are asking for different things. So decide on what kind of task book you want to use, and be sure after the exercise that you filled in all the appropriate things in your task book that you have accomplished, so that you might get credit for that. Okay, for contacts during this activity, some of the most active areas will be number one, the dam observation. And the station that's going to be at the dam is manned by 2 hams, Kilowatt Echo 4 Romeo Lima, and also Whiskey Bravo 1 Uniform Sierra November. So those are the 2 stations that will be in a communications trailer, and you can contact them if you need information about what they are observing at the face of the dam, and what is happening in simulation as far as conditions both at the dam and below the dam. So this particular dam would have, if it failed, would have catastrophic results downstream through major population areas. And so you have the impact of the earthquake itself, and then you're going to have the impact of any kind of failure at this dam. So keep that in mind. Also, the Unified Command Center will, I'll be manning that at November 4 Delta November. I'll be listening on HF, VHF, and also you can send me messaging by WinLink. So as you get into the composing of your messages, those within the impact area will be sending out requirements that they might have for stuff. And some of these may be such things as SAR teams, that's search and rescue teams. VDM has a large pool of those that are registered with VDM that have a high level of training. There are other search and rescue teams across the state that have been formed that are not affiliated with the VDM system, but generally these have less formal training than the VDM SAR teams. But these could be utilized because you're not doing really a wilderness search except in isolated situations, but you're doing urban search and rescue. Also, there would be a need to recruit swift water rescue. If anything happens with the dam, you need these people to be in place where they can perform their responsibilities in trying to rescue people that may be on the tops of their houses, or they may be on the banks of the river below this if they were able to escape the floodwaters. There would be requests going out for medical staff. So direct your requests for medical staff to the participating hospitals. We have a couple of, well, actually we have 3 major hospital systems throughout Virginia that are participating. And one of the larger of these have over 30 hospital or nursing home facilities that are part of their responsibility. And so they would be far enough removed that they would be in a good position to supply medical kinds of staff, such as nurses and physicians, EMTs, so forth, and also certain kinds of supplies. There would also need to be an appeal for sheltering, and along with sheltering goes shelter communication. Most of these shelters would be set up within this 50-mile radius that we deemed as the impact area, and there would be no normal communication from these. Cell phones would not be working, landline phones would not be working, and internet would not be working. So therefore, communication is vital to keep these shelters connected with each other and also with the parent organization. The group that may be supervising shelters could be social services in a particular city or county. In more situations, that's been sublet to the American Red Cross, or maybe even sheltering might be provided by the Salvation Army. So there would be a need both for sheltering and sheltering communication and security. One group that will be participating with us is the Virginia Defense Force, and they take training both in search and rescue and in security. So during a disaster like this, you need security. So you may be, if you're simulating being at a shelter, you want to send requests to organizations that might help you with both communication and with security. Following a disaster, and even in the midst of a disaster like this as it unfolds, another thing that generally we don't think about but should is grief counseling. People who are impacted by disaster, who find an outlet for their feelings shortly after this happens, often form a pattern of dealing with their grief and their pain, emotional pain, by being able to talk about this. And quite often this pattern is set up early. So there would be grief counseling that might be provided by those who have at least a limited amount of training in providing grief counseling. Also, you'd be requesting mass feeding. There are organizations that are very proficient in this. The American Red Cross historically has been great with distribution of the food once it's prepared in a large kitchen, and the American Red Cross has depended as of late more on partners to do the food preparation. One of the largest groups in this arena is the Southern Baptist. They have these large tractor trailers that come in that have a limited amount of food with them to get things started, and then of course there's a constant inflow of additional food so that they can feed thousands of people per day. So if you're in the impact area, you're going to need to be able to feed people. Most of the people, even if their home was not destroyed or heavily damaged, they have no way of cooking if they've depended on electricity, and they have no other means in their homes to provide for feeding. So mass feeding would be a great need, and if you're part of an organization that supplies these sort of things, then you need to make your availability known, because some locations may not even be aware of this. Also, chainsaw crews. When you have a disaster such as what might occur with flooding or it might occur as part of the earthquake scenario. You need to be able to cut trees out of the way. Roadways would be destroyed. Bridges would be destroyed. And so the clearing operations would be massive. And so if you're part of an organized chainsaw crew that has worked in disaster, or if you know of those that's in your area, then you might secure a commitment out of them to go, even though they actually would not make the journey. They would just commit themselves, and that would be reported to the affected area. So chainsaw crews are important. Communications trailers. Many hams throughout the Commonwealth have trailers designed for radio communication, or they may have campers or other vehicles that can take complete stations. They can also, with generators, they can be used as a charging station for handheld radios and so forth. And so communications trailers are very, very valuable. Here in the impact area, we fall in the district of District 4, of EDM District 4 and 6. And within District 4, we have 4 or 5 well-equipped communications trailers that I'm aware of. And there, I'm sure, many others across the state. So if you have a communications trailer, make that known to those in the impact area. You may want to go directly to the Unified Command Center with your radio communications capabilities, and you'd naturally have CommLs, which are communications leaders, and CommTs, which would be servicing communications equipment and so forth. Get a message through to a CommL, and he in turn would turn to the OxComm unit if you're ham radio operators and you're bringing a trailer. They need to know this, and they would need to position you, let you know where to go as a staging area, or let you know where to go directly to set up communications and assist in this simulation. Also, there would be a need for professional counselors, those that would go beyond just psychological first aid, and these might be MSW social workers, psychiatric nurses, and CPE trained ministers who have skills in these kind of things. So be sure to request the assistance of these kind of people. Now, normally, all these requests would be made up by agencies and passed to you as a ham communicator. But the reason that I have steered clear of the use of having agencies to compose these messages is that I've been involved in several simulations where they were ran by an agency, and they have recruited other agencies to participate with them. And in most all of these, they never really came through with any kind of agenda for communication. It was just assumed that their communication was being intact. So you bring a bunch of hams in and they sit there with nothing to do. Also, I've known of some of these where they recruited those who were supposed to be equipped with psychological first aid, and they had promised in planning meetings, oh yeah, we'll have people there who need to talk to someone, and they sit there and no one ever showed up. So my experience with agencies, if the person who is doing the planning is from a police background, quite often this is a shooting situation, and everything centers around this kind of scenario, and they always have intact communication. They have other kinds of things already set up to where the people are brought in with no real role to perform. So this is basically a communications exercise, and we want you to be able to communicate. And so if you've gotten in late on the exercise, I know I have some registrations that came in after the closing deadline, after December 31st, and people after the 31st of December had already began to write their messaging. And so if you showed up late, you may not have been included in messages that they were sending out. So within your own group, if you have a group that just got on board after the 1st of January, you need to be generating traffic between yourselves to ensure that you're going to have plenty of messaging. And a lot of messaging should involve local messaging, because in a real disaster, 80% of the communication or better is going to take place within the perimeters that's been affected by the disaster. So keep all these things in mind, and be prepared, and have a great time, and let us know what happened from your particular station or your agency by sending in these after action reports. And there is a page on the website for after action reports. There is a page there for photographs that you will send in and we'll post. And so this will be a learning experience. Doesn't make any difference how many that you participated in before. They're all somewhat different, and every disaster that you will go to will have some similarities from previous ones, and there'll be some things that are brand new. So thank you for listening and watching the video. If you have questions, you have my contact information on the web page that covers this, and also you will have my contact information from this. You can send it by WinLink if you want to my call, or you can send me emails to my call@arrl.net. And my call again is November 4, Delta November. So we're looking forward to the exercise. Have lots of fun. Don't get too stressed out, and try to learn from your experience. Thank you for being here, and God bless you all.